Hey everyone, Daryl Wellington here. From the many requests that I've received from our Centronic Canada employees, I am summarizing my thoughts on the COVID-19 health epidemic and in a video format. Here in our boardroom now, video studio, is a bit of a specialized look at Canada, Ontario, and specifically Ottawa. I'm going to talk about some of the facts. There are many. I'm going to talk about how Canada is doing compared to other countries, why Canada is in this situation compared to other countries, why Ontario is where it is, and Ottawa in particular, and then what's coming next. So to start with the facts, this is coronavirus. COVID-19 is much worse than the common flu due to a variety of reasons, including it is very contagious, it has long incubation times, it has a high percentage of cases with extreme symptoms compared to other illnesses, including fatality. So how is Canada stacking up compared to some of the other countries? If you look at the top left graph, you can see I've chosen the United States, Italy, and Sweden to compare with Canada. Confirmed positive cases, you see that's the order, but it's probably not so accurate given the dependency on test strategy. On the bottom left graph, you can see the confirmed deaths, which is probably a more accurate picture. Again, Canada is coming, this is a logarithmic scale, so you can see that Canada is coming in quite low. If you look at the case fatality rate on the right side, that's probably another indicator, but it's also dependent on the number of tests. So let's look at the daily confirmed COVID-19 deaths, which is probably a more accurate picture. There you see the United States is coming in badly, Italy is coming badly, Canada and Sweden doing about the same. If you consider population, then it turns into another picture, which is deaths per million, and there Italy is performing badly, but they're over the hump. Sweden's also over the hump. The US is still climbing, and Canada is still climbing, but significantly less than the other three. So why is Canada where we are? This is a population density is, I think, a big part of the Canada story. This data is coming mostly from Wikipedia. The higher the population density, the easier it is for the virus to spread. By restricting travel, it makes almost every city its own separate ecosystem. The timing of travel is also an important factor in how the various geographies were impacted. In Ontario, March break for the kids to take a vacation from school happened pretty much right at the time where the government closed the schools, and they put a lot of, the Canadian government put a lot of travel restrictions in place. In Sweden, they have a sports break, and it happened earlier than the Ontario March break. And many people in Sweden go to Italy to go skiing. Demographics is another part of the Canada story around having an older population. So you can see Italy is quite high in percentage of population above 70. Sweden's quite high. Canada is quite high. If you look at the overlay of China and Canada, you can see that Chinese population has a much lower average age. What about Ontario? This is a bit of a busy slide, but it shows you an overlay of the key events in Ontario and Ottawa along the bottom, and when those occurred, the first cases, the first deaths, and then when the Ontario government put in the restrictions. And I've overlaid that on the Ottawa picture of confirmed cases. So you can see in Ottawa, this is probably not accurate because we know not everybody's tested, but the cases were still quite early when heavy restrictions were put in place. Why is that? I think the biggest thing is population density. On this slide is around the deaths per 1 million population. So in Ottawa, it was 12 reported deaths as of yesterday, April 14th. And you can compare these numbers, you just need to pull the data. So where are we going next? How long is it going to take? Projections that the Ontario Public Health released were the best that I've seen. I've put the arrow as well as kind of a picture showing the curve. I've made it symmetrical. I don't know if it really will be, but I think it's unlikely that it will have a sharp drop off. It likely will continue somewhat in this fashion, which shows that we're coming up on the peak number of cases and number of deaths. So this is the Ontario picture. Again, I would say the Ottawa picture is probably better than the Ontario picture. High risk of a resurgence if the restrictions that are put into place are released too soon and there's still a lot of infections going around, then you could see, like the second graph there, another peak, a second peak, which could be just as bad as the first, especially in cities where the percentage of population that was infected in the first peak is quite low. So, in summary, the Ottawa, Ontario, Canada has done well to flatten the curve. At Centronic, we've done our part. I have a quick summary on the Centronic Canada status. Everywhere needs to be careful when reducing the restrictions to avoid a resurgence of the infections. This will have a lasting impact to daily life. We will still see policy changes coming probably on a close to daily basis. Travel restrictions are likely going to be in place, and restrictions should really be city-based as long as the travel restrictions are in place, and then phasing back the work from home into the work from office is going to happen over time. It's not going to be all of a sudden everybody's back at work. So I foresee that's going to be phased back in over time, likely starting in a month or maybe even 2 months. Centronic Canada status. So we have roughly 300 employees. We've had 39 of our employees that have been self-isolating. We've had 14 of our employees do self-isolation due to travel. We've had 5 potential exposures due to close contact with COVID positive results. We've had 21 employees with some symptoms that have gone into self-isolation. And we currently have only 2 self-isolating due to one of those reasons. And we've had 0 COVID-19 positive test results. I thought I would leave you with an interesting picture of some myths from the World Health Organization, dispelling some myths around, well, can you get it from mosquitoes? Does the sun help you? Should you drink alcohol? I think many people are, but probably different reasons. Hope that was informative.